Welcome back to another episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Autry, here with Tarun Duglu and Abhi Dingri. In this episode, we'll be recapping Oklahoma football's season opener against UTEP.
Alright, so to start us off, coming into this game, we all knew it was probably going to be an Oklahoma W. UTEP really isn't that one much of a powerhouse, having much success last year, but it was really about to see how Dylan Gabriel would fit in this new offense that he's had, how Oklahoma would transition between its Lincoln Riley era to its Venables era with Lebby as their offensive coordinator, and see how that reunion works out. And based on the score, you could tell it was pretty successful, putting up 45 points on UTEP today. Going over to who I think really shined on offense today. Let's talk about Dylan Gabriel. If I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't watch that much Dylan Gabriel in his limited time at UCF. I definitely saw I definitely paid attention to some games, came back to watch how he was, but watching it on Saturday, he looked very confident in the pocket. That was one thing I definitely noticed. He looked sound, he looked sturdy, he knew what he was doing, and he was very comfortable finding receivers like Marvin Mims all over the place, having a really good day. 15 for 37 for 231 yards and two touchdowns, while also scoring on the ground. He really looked like he was coming into his own. I'm really excited to see what this offense has in store as we progress through the season. But overall, I definitely see the Dylan Gabriel that was hyped up and touted up to be the next guy at UCF. Over on the UTEP side, granted, it was a very much of an offensive struggle for them all game, but Ronaldo Flores had a really big game as a receiver. 7 catches for 76 yards, around 10.9 yards per catch. Just really the only bright spot on that offense. As if we're to compare quarterbacks, we already know what Dylan Gabriel put up, but Gavin Hardison, 26 for 42 off 244, got subbed out for Calvin Brownholtz, 5 for 844 and a pick. Just really not a successful day in the air outside of Ronaldo Flores. On the other side of the ball, when it comes to defense, really the guy we have to talk about is Billy Bowman. 9 tackles, 7 solo tackles, and 2 passes defended, but his impact is definitely not shown just on the stat sheet. He was everywhere. He was out making plays, he was filling in the gaps, really just a smart defender, making all the right plays when you need him, really helping shutting down their offense anytime they needed. As for UTEP, Justin Prince did a very similar job as well. 10 tackles, 7 solo tackles, really just being an iron wall for the run game and being one of the only bright spots on this team today. And I really like what I saw from both of them today.
Yeah, so going back to offense, obviously, now that OU's coordinator is Jeff Lebby, formerly from Ole Miss, I'm curious how you felt about the tempo and the rushing attack that he brought to OU.
OU, really is known to be just like a run and gun school. Just not really run and gun, more like air it out, a lot of passing. But it's good to see, us having an actual rushing attack, having a different pacing to this offense. Because a lot of times last year, if we weren't firing at all cylinders, we'd be firing on nothing. The pace was very rigid. It would change. It was very easy to potentially lose our control over the offense. But with Levy's system, I feel like we can stay in control of the game a lot longer. Even though, I think UTEP had 38 minutes of possession, we only had around 20. We were able to do this much damage through a good pacing. Whereas last year, maybe even with better talent, although we probably would have put up the same numbers, we definitely would have had moments of struggle and just turmoil in the offense. So I'm really happy that Levy's contributions are showing up this early.
Yeah, and then kind of building off that last one, because the offense is going so fast, your defense is going to end up being on the field a lot more this season. How do you feel about you guys putting up 13 points, or holding up UTEP to 13 points?
I mean, coming from a team that was really notoriously known for not being good at defense and then losing 5 starters to the NFL, it's good to see them only holding a team to 13 points. Now, granted, it is UTEP. It's not what are the other bigger schools in the Big 12? Maybe it's not Texas or Baylor or the schools that we really have to worry about. Not even like a Nebraska, but it's just good to see that they really are zoning in and just adapting to the system and really playing their heart out. Now, in the next week, these next 2 weeks are more show games, and eventually when we go to Lincoln, that's when the big test is put to see how this defense really fares. But every win is a win, no matter how big.
Yeah, that's all the questions I have. Tarun, do you have any?
Not many questions, I guess. The only question I would have is, I guess, how do you think Dylan Gabriel and Jeff Levy looked in their reunion in the Oklahoma system, and do you think that will translate well to Big 12 play? Because obviously Lincoln Riley's offense worked very bit well in the Big 12, and I'm wondering how Jeff Levy's system that's mainly in the SEC would transfer to a different conference.
I mean, I think it will work out pretty well. Now, granted, OU this year definitely does not have as much talent as it had during the Lincoln Riley era. Notorious names like Kyler Murray, Marquise Brown, Joe Mixon. We've had definitely some bigger names, but with the tempo change, we're a lot more consistent with our offense, and I feel even though we might not be putting up having like 60-point wins or just being an insane offense, we're going to be a lot more consistent this year, and it's definitely going to translate well, especially with this more balanced attack. Because I feel the Big 12 is notoriously known for not being great defensively, so we'll still be able to put up points and get wins, but it'll be a lot more steady and not as like chaotic as last year, where there were times where we'd go on like long scoring droughts and then just have like insane possessions.
Like the Red River game last year?
Yes, just like that. Or the OK State game where we put up so many points in the first half and then just disappeared in the second half of the game.
Yeah, so I think that about wraps it up for this episode of the Triple Option Podcast. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe, and check out any other videos you see on our channel. There are a bunch of recaps and previews for other college football games, as well as some NFL and USFL content. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Nate Autry again. See you next time.